it's a non-negotiable that you get on the mat first thing in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's practice of yoga or whether for someone it might be running, but you have to connect to yourself first thing. You know, most people get up in the morning and the first thing they connect to, their iPhone.
Yep.
They're straight away lost. How can you even navigate through the day? So for me, it's straight away you get on the mat, you connect to yourself, and it's like, you know, we plug our iPhones into the charger to charge up. We need to charge up too and connect and you know, like connect so we can channel and hear our own thoughts. And it's amazing what a practice, you know, and how your day flows. Like.
So welcome on the show, HarJiwan.
Thank you for having me.
HarJiwan, that's a really unusual name that I have not heard a single time in my life before. Where did that come from?
HarJiwan was given to me by my spiritual teacher, Yogi Bhajan, and it translates as Princess Who Lives the Life of God.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Did you have a choice?
No.
Oh, okay.
You just give it.
Bingo.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. But it has a beautiful ring to it, and the actual the sounds have a sound current. So you know, in Kundalini Yoga, which is what I teach as well, we use a lot of mantra, which is the you know, sound current, and so it's like your name is sort of what you become. It's like it has a power to it.
Yes.
And so that's the I guess the philosophy behind having a spiritual name is that you become like the acorn and then you grow into the yoga tree.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Interesting concept for Australia where everything is shortened or lengthened depending on how long your name is.
Yeah. It's interesting actually because I once had a teacher talk about that whole concept of how Australians like to shorten names. And it's like he said it was like cutting off part of the person's destiny.
Wow. Like
making them smaller and putting them, you know, cutting them down, which was an interesting kind of thought process to take on. You think, it's interesting.
Yeah. So far I've been quite good in, you know, not being Seb but Sebastian in Australia. I just really thought that because I thought I want to hear my name.
Instead of Seb.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens, right? Although, in Germany it wasn't even that. So you mentioned Kundalini. Is that where your journey started, or is that actually sort of was that the destination of everything?
It's probably the end destination. Well, it's still going, but my background is like I've had many lifetimes in my life so far already. My background, it was ballet dancer. I trained very intensely in ballet and took it to professional level and was cut short because of injury and fatigue. So from there I moved into, I guess, the fitness industry, wellness and Pilates, and then became a Pilates instructor and eventually had my own Pilates studio. I taught Pilates all around the world, and when I came back to Australia I was the Pilates trainer for the Australian Ballet Company, and so worked with elite dancers and athletes like the Australian football clubs, and so that was basically my world, and having my Pilates studio, I lived it and breathed it. And then I was also doing yoga, which was my spiritual food, I guess. Well, you know, I do my yoga practice in the morning and then go and teach 12-hour days of Pilates.
Wow.
And they're, you know, elite, high maintenance clients. They weren't sort of just easy clients. So, and then my partner at the time went to LA, and when I was first introduced to Kundalini Yoga, there was no Kundalini Yoga in Australia. And I didn't even know about it. So it was, I was doing Shadow Yoga and Vinyasa Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, you know, all the yogas that are more common. And he brought back this book, which was written by my first Kundalini Yoga teacher, and she'd written a message in it saying, "We so look forward to seeing you." And I read the book, and it was amazing. And I started doing some of the exercises, and I was blown away by the power that it generated in myself. So I got in touch with Gurmukh, who was my first teacher, and she said, come to LA, and I said, I can't because I'm so busy with my schedules and stuff. But as it turns out, the universe kind of pushed me to go over quicker, because that one afternoon I went to my Pilates studio and walked in on a burglar, and he was holding a crowbar up at me. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I'd just come from a massage, and I was totally in this blissed out space. Yeah. It was really, I couldn't run anyway because my studio was 6 floors up at the end of our corridor, so it was very quiet, nobody was there. And I kind of just stood there, and he just said, "Is this your place?" And I said, "Yes." And then he eventually, makes long story short, he left the building, but it kind of shook me up.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I got on the phone and said, "I'm coming to LA, I've got to get away from here for a while." So off I went. And and then the rest is like, it just evolved from there. I kept going back and forth to LA, came back and immediately started implementing Kundalini Yoga at the end of my Pilates trainings with the ballet company, with the ballet school, with my clients, the meditations. They loved it and they wanted more. So Gurmukh was really pushing me to go and do my certification with Yogi Bhajan, because Yogi Bhajan was, everyone knew, kind of coming towards the end of his physical life. So luckily I was very blessed to study directly at his feet. So and that's and then I came back, and then I opened Australia's first Kundalini Yoga studio in Melbourne.
Yeah, and now it's actually very well.
Yes, it's really spread.
Yes, how interesting. Why do you think that is?
I think because it's so in alignment with the times. People, like, we're living in such fast-paced times. We're bombarded by so much information that we need a practice that will work quickly and effectively, and that's what Kundalini Yoga does. It's incredible in giving you really fast results. So for someone who's really in a high-paced business sort of environment and can't actually even sit for even 10 minutes and meditate because their mind is just so over.
Wow.
You know, you can do a Kundalini Yoga meditation in like 3 minutes and already have an effect.
Yes.
Like in 3 minutes of a Kundalini Yoga meditation, you will affect the electromagnetic field and the stability and chemistry of the blood. So, and then we have meditations that go on the other spectrum of 2.5 hours, which, but it's very practical. I think it's just perfect for now.
Yeah, right.
It's like the yoga of the future.
Even though it has a tradition in the history that goes way back
over 5,000 years.
Holy cow. Yeah.
It's like the oldest form of yoga.
Wow. Yeah.
It's the mother of all yoga.
I'm sure everyone would agree with that.
That's what I've been told.
Yeah. Oh, great. Wow. And funny that exactly now is the right time for it to come to the West.
Yeah.
Or now I don't know when did you start?
When did Kundalini Yoga?
When did you start? Yeah.
I started 2000.
Yeah. So quite a while. Yeah. I mean, I know the term well, but I wouldn't have guessed that it at one stage wasn't around whatsoever.
Well, in fact, nobody knew about it in the West until Yogi Bhajan came in 1969. And up until then, Kundalini Yoga was very, very secret. It wasn't written down. It was taught from teacher to disciple orally. And the reason being it was taught orally was in a form to protect the sacredness of the teachings, because they were afraid that if the teachings got into the wrong hands, because Kundalini Yoga awakens your power, it awakens your spiritual potential, your human potential, and so they were, it was like keep the masses down, so to speak. And Yogi Bhajan, when he came to the West, he saw, he went to America, and it was 69, so Woodstock, crazy stuff going on, and he was like, oh my God, I've got to stay here and help these people get high without drugs and without abuse, and so he stayed, and he broke the spiritual, I guess, tradition of keeping a secret, and he said, no, the world needs it.
Yeah, great, good on him.
Yeah. Thank God.
But you're not in Melbourne anymore. No, but you still do just the same, or have you evolved from there?
Well, I teach, so from Melbourne. I actually moved up here to Byron because like I said, I had my studio in South Melbourne. It was all beautiful, I had a beautiful community. But I remember one day I went out on the front of my studio and was looking at all the city and the air, and I just had this drop that I'm going to be pregnant soon. My son's coming, and I don't want to be in the city. And then I just had visions of rainbows. and I thought, okay, I've got to move to Byron Bay. So I went upstairs and I told my partner, he's like, yeah, okay. And not thinking I was serious, but I actually was very serious. And interestingly, the timing of it was in alignment because my studio's lease was up, my yoga studio. and it was being sold, so we had to move to find another location. So it kind of seemed like, okay, well, we're kind of free now. So, so we came to Byron Bay, and then 7 months later, I got pregnant with my son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you opened a studio here then as well?
No, I haven't felt called to open a studio in Byron. Instead, what happened is the program that I teach now evolved, which is the WOW Mentorship program. And that's an evolution of my 2 decades of teaching, and also bringing together, even my Pilates training years and fitness and wellness and all that, as well as raw nutrition education, because I'm also a certified raw nutritionist, and Kundalini Yoga. So I use Kundalini Yoga as a very powerful tool to really activate within women their feminine power, to really trigger. It's like this real powerful activation is the best way to explain it, that happens during the 40-day mentorship program.
So it's an intensive 40 days.
It's very intense, At the moment it's one-on-one, which is honouring the traditional way of how Kundalini Yoga was taught, because it used to be taught one-on-one from teacher to disciple. And now it's not like, it's more that I'm sharing these amazing tools with you to awaken you to your highest potential, to give you all these skills that you can then navigate your life. And most people come to me when it's their kind of last resort, almost like. I had a woman in her late 20s, and she had really bad skin, really crazy hormone levels for her age. And as a result, you can imagine at that age to have really bad skin. It was really bad for her self-confidence and self-esteem, and it was becoming a real issue for her. And she'd spent like thousands, her parents' money obviously too, sometimes I think, on helping her. So she came to me through a friend, and what I do is I give them a very specialised Kundalini Yoga practice, and I look into their tantric numerology as well, which is another thing again, and then also just tune into them really, and then I create a very highly specialised program that's targeted specifically for them, and also addressing her hormones, whatever it was that was going on. Anyway, to make a long story short, we did the program, and she hadn't had a menstrual cycle for 3 years. On day 35 of the program, she got her first menstrual cycle, her skin cleared, and she's moved on with her life.
Wow.
Yeah, and then on the other spectrum, you might have someone, like so many different cases of someone in their 50s who's coming out of a very, abusive relationship and really shattered and needs to really, rebuild herself. And so, stories of really finding their power and moving on with their lives and opening their hearts again and fearlessly.
Yeah. So what are the tools that you have encompassed and incorporated into that mentorship that you think are the most effective ones that really work for people?
Yeah. Okay, definitely. I mean, all the tools that I've put into this program are only the most powerful that I've personally experienced. And I've been on this kind of, human potential journey since I was 13, and kind of trying, doing different things, reading books, it's been a long journey. So for me, the most powerful and most direct ways to give a real fundamental shift to women and men, absolutely. Is Kundalini Yoga meditation, as taught by Yogi Bhajan. I believe for me, when people are going through a transformational process, that obviously the input of what you put in your body is huge on your mental processes and everything. And so there's a very required detoxification process. So I kind of direct people to more vegan, raw nutrition, sort of style of eating while they're on the program. They don't have to be, crazy about it, but it's almost like a natural process that happens anyway, because as you're taking in more prana, as you're living more in your body, and as you're sort of awakening and becoming more sensitive and sensory, you actually don't want heavy, dense foods to numb you. You want to feel more, you don't want to be sort of deadened. So that's a big aspect of it. Tonic herbalism, so we use tonic herbs, medicinal mushrooms, all those amazing things like ashwagandha, astragalus, anything that is specifically for that person. Because not everything's going to work for everyone. What is someone's medicine is someone's poison. So that's why it's highly specialized. I haven't kind of made it across the board. It's very specific. And then also core empowerment and very deep coaching, for just being right there with them. And through that process, because they're so closely held in that space. They're able to really go deep. There's not that fear, and then they create the transformation on the
facilitator.
Yes, I got it very deeply. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, right. When you say the meditations of Kundalini, so they wouldn't do the whole exercise, if you want to call it exercise and practice necessarily?
Yeah, exactly. Like in Kundalini Yoga, there are literally thousands of different yoga. We call them kriyas. Kriya means completed action. So kriya is really like a yoga set. So there's literally thousands of different meditations and yoga sets, and they're all very specific. So one thing I really love about Kundalini Yoga is very results orientated. There's a very specific reason why you're doing a particular kriya.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Like, why do you want to waste your time doing something that's like, yeah.
Yes.
So, for example, if you had, there's a kriya for the liver, there's something to balance and stimulate the spleen, because, there's this whole damn spleen situation that might be going on, especially if they're going, being raw foodies for a long time and they haven't done it correctly, because there's a way to do it and a way not to do it. Then they can keep their spleen dry and they can keep their digestive system strong not only through knowing how to, activate through the raw nutrition, but also through the yoga. So you can generate an inner heat in your digestive system and make it really strong instead of sluggish through the breath, through the Kundalini Yoga. So there's kriyas for the stomach, there's even a Kundalini Yoga kriya to balance your electromagnetic field after an earthquake.
That is very specific.
It's
fantastic.
I know.
Yeah.
And how to keep up. There's meditations for how to keep up with children. There's kriyas for the mind and paranoia. There's kriyas for, you name it, there's a particular kriya. And not only one. There'll be there's like so many liver kriyas. So when you're doing a detoxification program, like when I teach a detox series, we'll address the colon, the lymphatic system, the kidneys, the skin, obviously the lungs, everything.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and then you add the dietary. It's great.
Yeah. I'm looking sometimes sort of what the future will bring, and when I look into medicine, there's a lot about customized medicine and, the market of the one, meaning like there's only one customer for this particular thing that medicine might bring out and so on. And that goes exactly in the direction where we actually acknowledge we're not all the same, and this will not help everyone, or anyone. But there's certainly something to be said about really customizing to that individual and seeing that individual and its problems or symptoms as what it is, and then customizing something to them. And it sounds like you're already there doing that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so inspiring for me because they write me an email at the beginning of what it is they want to work on spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So it's really in depth. And then at the end of the program, we go back to that original email. And if they've been on the mat every day and they've done the work, obviously they've got to do the work.
Yes. Everything
they've written is transcended. It's amazing and so inspiring.
Power of intent.
Yeah.
Well, and
yeah.
Facilitated.
Yeah. So it's really inspiring, but then sometimes, you want to sort of reach more people. So then I'm working on also doing like a mastermind group where they'll be, open to like a group situation. And then, having worked with so many women, like thousands of women, you kind of know that the common sort of streams of what we need to work on. So that will be sort of open to more people that way.
Yeah. I've been talking to many practitioners, and one question I always ask is like, what are the problems that you see? And there's a little bit of a pattern, but it might be different for women actually. So what would be your top 3 that you say that's what people or what women battle with most?
Yeah. Well, women it's an interesting time right now. Women are really rising. Like there's a real shift happening. It's pretty obvious on the whole planet sort of situation.
When I look into my office, I'm the only man.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of change happening, and women are really waking up in a big way.
Yeah.
And with that, they're wanting more. They're wanting more communication and connection in regards to relationships. They're wanting, obviously. When you're asking me the question about what are some of the common problems that women come to me for, it'll be, hormonal issues often is one. Sort of clarity, intuition, heightened intuition, confidence, self-love, self-worth, all those sort of things. More energy, more vitality, because, people are tired.
Yeah.
People generally are
Fatigue,
tired.
yeah.
Most people.
Yes.
And we can't reach our full potential if we don't have energy. It's just like impossible. So for me, activating that vitality in people is really important. Even if they don't put it in their email, we'll definitely address that to get that prana, that vital life force moving through their systems, so that they've got more energy, so that they can then, you know, obviously achieve more, do more, be in their excellence. So that's another one. And also coming out of, you know, possibly relationship breakups,
yes.
you know, divorce or, you know, abusive situations. Then, you know, on the other end, I've got women who are really high achievers, have, you know, got amazing businesses, have families and being, you know, going really well, but they just want that extra edge, you know, they want to connect to self, they want to connect to spirit, and they need time out. So that's another thing as well. So, yeah.
You know, with the fatigue, what's the underlying, oh, I'm sure there are many reasons, but, you know, can you see a pattern there? What causes the fatigue mostly?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't breathe properly.
Yes.
It sounds so basic, but really, like, we breathe really shallow. And I mean, what's one of the big things of Kundalini Yoga is the breath, and to really breathe and bring more oxygen into the body, into the blood, and, you know, oxygen the brain, and you know, like even at 4 o'clock, instead of, you know, grabbing a cup of coffee, to do like a really dynamic 3-minute pranayama, or, you know, even a 11-minute quick little kriya, yoga kriya, and you can have so much energy generated. You know, and of course the diet, I think, is huge.
Yes.
I think that's another thing actually of why some women come, is also sleep issues is a massive one as well. I think that's also related a lot to blue light and, you know, the computer. I'm so sensitive to blue light. I just I have to wear like my, what do you call them? My blockers. Blue light blockers.
The blockers are right.
I really notice if I don't. It's insane.
Yeah, it's really sad. I feel sad when for one reason or another, you know, I've been on my phone just before I turn off the light, and then I'm lying and it's like, there's no way I can sleep. You know, and there's no reason because I'm super tired, but you know, the brain is fired up and not much you can do really.
Yeah, the melatonin. So, I mean, that's the other thing. Through the practice of Kundalini, we work on the pineal gland and the pituitary gland. So pineal gland is the, you know, generating melatonin. So it helps with sleep rhythms. We have meditations that are specifically to activate a rhythmic pattern in the body, and then over time that rhythmic pattern stays in the body so that the natural rhythms, biorhythms of the body are restored, and they sleep through the night, and also, you know, give them tonic herbs as well to help support that. So and obviously if you get better sleep, you can wake up early on and get on the mat and do your practice, which then generates you for the day. So yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
If I think about don't read my mind. You saw I had a blank there because I had a question and then I had to listen about what you were saying. Oh, this is a good point too. You know, practitioners often have a lot of supplementation that they use and see that they can tweak the body that way and bring the mind to, you know, a different state, or, you know, a different outlook or what have you. By the sounds of it, you use the toolkit of Kundalini Yoga particularly. So you supplement with, if you want to call it supplementation, with certain herbs, but it sounds that's not the core. It's important, but it's not the core at all.
Right. Because, like, for example, there might be someone who's come to me who has seen, and, you know, everyone has their place, yes. And everyone, you know, has it. You know, I'm not saying anything, but some practitioners overload people to the point where they're taking so many things. And the body, we have so many chemicals in our own systems that we just need to know how to switch on the chemicals. So, and that's what Kundalini Yoga does. We can stimulate the secretions of the glands. So, for example, I had someone who was coming to me and she was taking so many concoctions and stuff. I was like, okay. Well, let's just have that, just do that rest. And I just gave her, I think it was also maybe 4 different tonics, like tonic herbs. and the rest was Kundalini Yoga and the system restoring its own self. And and then she got the results she wanted. Plus, it was a lot less money. I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
Thousands. I know. I've been there.
Yeah.
I still do some supplementation, but
I do too. I mean, I try. I'm constantly, trying different things. Yes, on my own sort of experimental machine.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So maca is something that I use a lot myself, but I don't take it every day. It's not like one of those tonic herbs that you need to be off and on to get the benefits of it. And medicinal mushrooms. I mean, I never take something consistently. I like to go dive into it, get it, and then you feel when you need to shift into something different.
Yeah, I definitely have that. Yeah. I do draw blanks. That's weird. One really specific question that I had is around when you were saying that raw foodists have often a damp spleen.
Yes. Well,
why would that be?
I think because it's not done. I think a lot of people when they go even vegan or raw, they don't necessarily educate themselves on how to do it, and so there's a term that Chinese medicine specifically uses where the spleen becomes damp.
Yes.
Or the digestive fire isn't strong enough, so you should eat cooked foods. Now, so for me, how I would address that is I would ensure that they're keeping the spleen dry through adding different herbs or foods and doing a lot of breath of fire, for example, and to build the digestive fire.
That's how you do it, breath of fire,
Yeah, breath of fire is amazing. It's like...
I have done it once. I got dizzy, but that's probably normal.
Well, dizziness is usually, you can either hyperventilate or dizzy. Dizziness can be because of the oxygen intake is and also it's so powerfully detoxifying. But it's also quite incredible that when people start to do breath of fire, if there's a negative pattern that they've been holding for, who knows, generations, who knows.
Yes.
And they start to do breath of fire, it helps them to drop negative thought processes, negative patterns easier. It just seems to happen. And it brings the systems into rhythm. And it really oxygenates the blood, as I said. It's powerfully detoxifying, gets rid of mucus and, opens the lungs. And I mean, there's so many benefits to it for the nervous system, strengthening for the nervous system. It's just like rapid breath in and out.
Through the nose? Yeah, why not?
So the navel is moving back and forth. So whilst you're doing it, your navel point is getting stimulated as well, which then tunes up the 72,000 nerves in your system.
Yeah, that's it.
So in breath of fire, like speaking of breath of fire, we might be doing, a Kundalini Yoga practice, and there'll be breath of fire in certain asanas. So what happens is when you do breath of fire with a particular asana, it multiplies the benefits of that asana.
Wow.
So it's like expressing and getting your complete credit, like complete maximum results from that asana. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Something that you said just before is like negative habits that might have come through generations. I remember talking to psychologists about that whole pattern that goes through the family line all the way back. What I also heard is actually, and that I thought that was quite incredible, that if you solve it for the generation that you're working with, and that's a normal psychologist, nothing new agey at all. They see this unravel in the parents and then the grandparents for whatever reason. But what would be an example, and why is that? Why can you resolve something that has gone through generations, but how does it get passed on between generations at all? Is it a habit?
I think it could be several things. I don't think it's necessarily the same for every single person. I think there's definitely like codes, like in the DNA perhaps.
And
things like that. I mean, there's also said that we're processing, our great-great-grandparents, what was in their liver still. Like I've heard that as well. So, and what's amazing is that, and I know I keep going back to Kundalini Yoga, but it's just so amazing that it's not just about physical fitness, but because you can dump some sort of deep karmic pattern in a session. You don't necessarily know when that's going to happen. For example, I had a guy who had been a yogi for like 16 years, and at the time I was heavily pregnant, and I was still teaching up until I think 7.5 months. And he just looked at me and said, "Oh, so I think this is going to be an easy class." And I said, "No, come stay. You might get something out of it." I knew you would, but I just acted like. So anyway, so we did the workshop, and at the end of the class, he came up to me and said, "Oh my God, that was amazing. Like, I don't know, I've never been able to touch my toes." And we didn't focus on flexibility the whole time. We were doing things like, awakening the diaphragm and becoming like, angels with these particular kind of kriyas that they call, but it's basically to build the inner security and strength. And we did all this stuff, and lots of stuff. Anyway, so I said what happened is that he cut through some sort of, nervous system pattern, and thus created space and was able to touch his toes.
Wow.
It's kind of weird. It sounds kind of maybe esoteric for some people, but it was actually it's not. It's very, very real. So he was able to touch his toes, but we didn't, for 16 years he'd been just focusing on touching his toes, but it was something that was lodged in his system.
Yes.
That was holding him like tighter than what he wanted to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, do we know where Kundalini Yoga really comes from? Is that still known how people actually came up with 5,000 years ago with these sets of
you kind of wonder, don't you? Like,
there
is a history to it. I mean, it's because it's so much of it was not written. There's no kind of defined. It was like when India and Tibet. So it's there's whole history in ancient Tibet as well with it. So it's and like the wisdom from that time, you think like, for example, hand mudras, these are like pathways to talk into the brain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I do that and I always thought it's a bad habit because it looks like I'm nervous. Well, depending on how you do it, I guess.
Yeah, well, there's actually, meditations it's very basic fundamental meditations where we walk through the fingers, and they've done research, like modern day research, where this meditation fires up like electrical currents in the brain.
Wow.
So to know that 5,000 years ago is quite amazing, isn't it? Like, it's mind-boggling. I mean, when you look at it too, though, like the Chinese medicine system, that goes back. I mean, you wonder, how did they know? Yeah. In ancient Egypt, it's like these systems, these ancient cultures were amazing.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine on he's from LA, and he looked into Chinese medicine quite a bit, and I asked him, look, how did you find out, or how they found out about all these different herbs and that they really work that way? He said, the monks that were mainly doing that were their own sort of test group, and and quite a few died by trying certain things out. And it's like, I know. I mean, that makes sense to a certain degree, but when you see how sophisticated that is, how many millions of people that would have taken to get to that, it suggests to me that something happens that Steiner would have explained how he got his knowledge, which was basically meditation with an intent in a particular way.
Almost like channeling, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, do you know about medical medium?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's an example of a modern day person, like
that's right.
So they're God. There is definitely
a connection, and
yes. Higher wisdom.
You mentioned tantric numerology.
Yeah.
I understand numerology to a certain degree. I've never studied it, but is that different?
What is tantric? Yes, it is different. Tantric numerology is one aspect of Kundalini Yoga, and it wasn't traditionally part of Kundalini Yoga, but Yogi Bhajan brought it beautifully into the teachings. And in Kundalini Yoga, just to give you an idea of the tantric numerology, is we work with the chakra system, which is people pretty much know about chakras, and but we also work with the 10 bodies of consciousness, which are 10 bodies that we also work with in Kundalini Yoga, and that's why it works so quickly. So these 10 bodies are, if they are out of balance, then we're not experiencing harmony. Not only internally but also externally. Now, tantric numerology is based on our birth date, and it's kind of we work with a soul position, a karmic position, then we have a gift position, a destiny, and a path position. And I use that, the tantric numerology, quite in depth to see beyond what my clients know of what their challenges and strengths are. So that, you know, we're all born according to this teaching. It's with a philosophy of reincarnation, obviously, because we're, it's with many lifetimes to even be here. So we're all very ancient. But this reading is really so I can see where their challenges are and what their gifts are. And it's really I guess, empowering for women and men when you, I say women because that's who I work with, when they can see that, for example, if you have a particular body, you know, we have a soul body, we have our 3 mental bodies, we have a negative protective mind, we have a positive projective mind, and we have a neutral meditative mind. So we don't just have one mind, we have 3. Then we have the physical body, which is the one that most people, you know, relate to. It's our vessel. And then we have an arc line, which is like a beam of light. It's kind of like a halo.
Oh, good.
And then we have the aura, the electromagnetic field. Then we have a subtle body. And then we have the pranic body, then the subtle body, and then the radiant body. So we have all these bodies.
Yes.
Now, each of those bodies has like a gift or a skill that it holds.
Per individual?
Everyone has these 10 bodies.
Yes.
But according to what your tantric numerology is, will show which one is your challenge and which is your strength. For example, if you're born in August, that's going to show you that your karmic position is the 8th body, which is the pranic body. So it's really for you to feel harmony within your external surroundings. Really, really important to do a lot of breath, a lot of diaphragmatic breath, and to, you know, whether it's aerobic movement or breathing or Kundalini yoga to bring that energy. There's a lot of challenges that come in each area when it's out of balance, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, for example, each body, if someone has something that's really out of balance, it'll manifest as a negative personality trait. And so someone might think that this negative personality trait is actually who they are.
Yes.
But in fact, it's nothing to do with who they are. It's just that particular body has come out of balance, and that's what it's manifesting as. So as they strengthen that body, that negative personality trait no longer is there.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And so if that inner balance, that out of balance continues, you just remain the person that you think you are.
And then you navigate through life thinking, oh, this is just me.
Yes.
And it's nothing to do with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of
amazing.
like, I know.
Well,
and even just knowing that, like when I tell, we go into depth and we say,
just knowing that.
Did you know this? Like people knowing their gift number, people, you know, when you tell them their gift number, it's so beautiful because this is an amazing gift you have, and for some people it's like, wow, and you say, but you've got to claim it and own it and straight away switch it on because you don't. This is what you have.
Yeah.
And to see that in people and to see, okay, so this isn't actually me, or straight away a conscious, you know, oh, okay, so therefore I don't have to be like that anymore. But then also the yoga, we do specific yoga to make sure we balance that body.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense because it's kind of like
no. I mean, it makes sense to me from the point of view that I've looked in quite a few. I've looked into systems that sort of explain my personality, whether it's just the horoscope and natal chart and all the details, or human design, which is a beautiful system that I quite enjoy, or just quite stock standard personality types, which is all originated from the I Ching. So there has quite a history that then Freud and Jung brought to the West, and that alone helped me so much to accept just who I am and who I'm not. Like I'm not particularly outgoing person really, and I'm not a really detailed person, and for a long time, and the school system doesn't really help with that because it's like you have to be everything. And instead of saying, well, but I am good in that, and I always have been. And I think if people would get the permission to be who they are and just acknowledge, well, the skill set that I got given at birth, coming into this world, it just doesn't include this part. I don't have to feel bad about it. You might still want to do it and explore it and develop it, fine, but you know, you don't have to feel bad that you're different to everyone else. And I think, yeah, that's extremely powerful, and it sounds like tantric numerology goes that little bit further, that when you actually talk to people and say like, okay, you know, I can see where you're at now, but really this is the blueprint that was intended, so you know, let's bring you back there.
Yeah, and I make sure that people know that not to be attached to that too. It's simply a tool, and we're not limited. That's the thing, like you can be your excellence of who you are.
Yeah.
You don't have to be by any particular labels at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some danger or pitfalls that I feel and I've seen is that people go so deep in a particular system and interpret every single part of the reality that comes towards them, that it creates almost a still stand, because there's no ability to really make decisions anymore, because everything is interpreted. Like, you know, to the degree like, oh, that person bought 3 of these items in front of me in the shopping line, 3 means this, which means for me, you know, and I wonder why that happens, because it's unfortunate, because often people have really good knowledge and could use the tool in the sense that it actually enables and empowers them, but somehow it becomes so much attachment, maybe that's what it is. It just takes over, and at that moment there is no clarity whatsoever, but the confusion, because everything gets interpreted. Do you know how to navigate that?
I think it's just coming back to self constantly and checking in with your intuition, and I think that comes to self-trust. And knowing that you, inside you, you have all, I mean, it sounds cliche, but you do have all the wisdom inside of you. The only problem is there's so much distraction and so much doubt and so much negativity and so much to get through that often people can't hear it.
Yeah.
And there's so much externalization. You know, we're told so much. I mean, we're given so much information that, you know, you can use discernment, but at the end of the day, you've got to constantly, daily, I mean, I feel every day on the mat and either meditate or do yoga or do something to connect to yourself. Otherwise, someone else is going to take over your mind.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, we're so mind programmed, and if we don't, I mean, I see it with my boy, you know, like we were talking before, you know, about how the bombardment of, you know, everyone knows it now, social media and stuff, and that too, you know, your mind is your property, and if you don't look after it, someone else is going to stick a stake in there, you know, and claim your mind. You don't want that.
You think what I want you to think, and you know, to a certain degree that's happening for a long time. I was thinking about my kids actually, that they sort of take over my mind, and I'm the one who thinks about crystals and fairies all the time. And I want to have a genuine my thought, not yours. And you know, again, that comes probably back also for parents to have a certain practice around like centering yourself during the day and the beginning of the day and the end, and just, you know, because that energy of young ones, especially because you're open to your kids, you know, you love them, you want to hear what they're saying, but at the same time staying still who you are rather than becoming their truth, you know.
Yeah, although they do have a lot to teach us too, though, don't they?
Agree, and I don't want to miss it, but I do know that, you know, sometimes I lose myself in that, and that's good to a certain degree.
I mean, I teach that my clients that, I mean, it's a non-negotiable that you get on the mat first thing in the morning. Whether it's practice of yoga or whether for someone it might be running, but you have to connect to yourself first thing. You know, most people get up in the morning and the first thing they connect to, their iPhone. They're straight away lost. How can you even navigate through the day? So for me, it's straight away you get on the mat, you connect to yourself, and it's like, you know, we plug our iPhones into the charger to charge up. We need to charge up too and connect and you know, like connect so we can channel and hear our own thoughts. And it's amazing what a practice, you know, and how your day flows. Like I just actually had a message from one of my international clients saying she had to get up really early one morning to catch a flight. And she said, I don't know how to do my practice because I can't get up at my normal 6 o'clock time. I either have to get up at like 3 o'clock and do the practice or do it late. And she said, which one should I do? And I said, do it in the morning. Just give it a go. Just get up at 3 and do your practice, and you know it's a one-off. Put some candles on, make it a ritual. She said, okay. I said, and there's a very special energy that is around in that sort of, unveil time.
Yeah.
So I said, try that, see how it goes. So anyway, I got a message from her later that day, said, oh my God, the day just flowed, filled with synchronicities, it just flowed, things just magically, I bumped into a friend I hadn't seen in years, and this happened and that happened. I said, yeah. So there's something that happens.
We've been talking in the office a lot about how we can bring more, healthy habits and healthy practice into the office. And I was saying, like, if I have to make myself go into our office gym or what we might have, I don't think it will work. But listening to you that you say you can do a 3 or 11-minute thing instead of the afternoon coffee, that sounds great. And if, you can do that in a group actually, and so maybe in the office and the work of the future, I believe people are way more aware of that and integrate that really easily and willingly too.
Yeah, I mean, imagine big corporate, places doing, a certain time. Okay,
Yes.
we're going to do this dynamic,
Nice.
And not just like sitting.
Yeah.
With nothing wrong with that either. But doing something that's dynamic to get the whole systems going.
Yes.
And switch the mind on, get the glands moving, get the circulation, and then you're back in action.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I would certainly pursue that a little bit more. That sounds like a really good way to do it.
Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned a while ago, when I talked to you, that you do, about 6 minutes ago, that you do love events.
Yes.
Yes, I want to talk also about the course that you normally do, the mentorship course, because I think a couple more cornerstones would be amazing to talk about. But love event just stood out for me because it sounds like a really interesting thing to do.
Yeah, I do live events, obviously in Australia.
Yeah.
And if I go overseas, when I go overseas as well. But there's one big event that we're doing next year, which is going to be sort of live streamed globally as well. Great. So that will be something that will be really amazing.
Yeah.
And the whole thing to have that real powerful collective energy and to build this, big, group energy and and also just really activate the people that are there through the power of the transmission of Kundalini Yoga.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So that will be an annual event that you do?
Yeah, we're looking to make it annual. This one will be the first one of the one that we're planning.
Yeah.
I've done, obviously retreats and live events, but this is something totally different that we're looking at doing, and that's going to be here in Byron. So, being Byron, such a high, energy field, we thought, why not?
Well, yeah, and, lots of like-minded people too.
Yeah.
Something that I wanted to ask you around, living in an area where, I call it New Age, but that must be just my age, like a lot of New Agey things coming up, and I can see people just becoming, I guess, what do you say, seminar junkies, people who look for the shiny object, and get actually more confused, and and the tools might be actually amazing or not, but I found it hard to see how you actually navigate through it, and I remember a conversation that I had with Mason, who said, look, there are certain teachers out there that look for the so-called low-hanging fruit, meaning like people are really burned out, they're really not in a good state. They fall for this, and it might work or it might not, so, the integrity of the teacher and the experience of the teacher is really, really important. Not always easy though to know really what's going on when you look at their social media profile. It looks good job, and good testimonies, and how do you navigate that?
I think it's I like I said, I believe that the audience is becoming more sophisticated. I think people, there's so many charlatans, there's so many pretenders out there being experts, when it's like not, and it's, you can't stop that, but I feel that because people, because there is so much of that now, I think people are becoming much more selective, and I think people can smell it now. People are not as, no, I won't use the word dumb, but people are they have to become more sophisticated because there's so much bombardment, and I think that's just what's happening. I think people can see it easier now. It might take still, I think when you're in a very low place and you so want something to work, so you do put your faith in it, and it's sad because it's disheartening for them, and that could be also why a lot of the people I see, they've been through so many, and they finally, it's
Sometimes those are stepping stones, and of course there are also good experience in one way or another, and leads to other things.
I mean, Yogi Bhajan mentioned that. He said that that he used to get really disheartened seeing that there's so many Americans going to India and paying so much money to all these like pretenders and trying to find God or trying to find something and coming home with nothing. And he said it really hurt his heart. Made him sad.
Yeah, I know a lot of old hippies or people who used to be so, I don't know, vibrant in their youth or in their 30s and 40s, like friends of mine that are sort of now in the 60s and 70s, and there's still some people that actually have found gold, and they're vibrant people, they're younger than me, like personality-wise. And then there are a lot of people where I'm surprised, oh, you've tried that, you've tried this, and now you're really conventional and not particularly happy, and that fits into what you're just saying, because I think people tried, and with a particular age, you're much more open to all these things, but if you then don't find what you're looking for, you also get disillusioned and just said, well, this is not for me, this doesn't exist. Yeah,
I do say it actually to every client of mine that you're so blessed that you've found these teachings, like you're actually, you've earned the right.
Yeah.
You've earned the right.
Beautiful. Well manifested. However that works.
Yeah.
Hey, should we talk about sort of a little bit more of the cornerstones of your transformation of women? You actually call that WOW, right?
Yes.
So that's Women of the World.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also because it's WOW. It works like wow.
Yeah, great. W-O-W.
Yes.
Yes. So Kundalini, big part of it.
Yes.
Yes. And then nutrition, you said, was another one.
Yeah, definitely. And we go into as depth as the person is open. If they're really, usually they're open to being guided, but sometimes they sort of just want to have not as depth, not as don't go as deep into that. But that naturally evolves anyway. But yeah, definitely raw nutrition education for them, and guidance on the dietary aspect, because it's such an important part, the input and the output.
Yes. Yeah.
And then tonic herbalism and guidance. But what we asked.
Well, something slightly different. So you're saying, people might get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. How do you rate sleep?
How do I rate sleep?
Yes, like how do you rate sleep? How important is it really?
Very important.
It's important, even if you're really strict with your or really into your practice. You can't negate that you do need sleep.
You need sleep.
You need.
I think there's this thing where people are kind of like, I don't sleep. I don't sleep. It's like, you need sleep. You'll pay the cost later.
Yeah.
We need sleep specifically between 10 and 2.
Okay.
Otherwise, over time, I mean, you can, you don't have to be asleep every single night at that time. However, they're the hours where we're healing and restoring, and it's an important work going on then. So, I think as you do more and more, for me personally, as I, when you do more and more Kundalini Yoga and you eat less energy draining foods, which takes more, I mean, one of the highest energy depletion things is digesting, actually. Like it takes a lot of energy to digest. So if you're eating foods that are partially digested, only high in enzymes, you're not using as much energy. So that energy is for you to use.
Right.
Talking
about raw food.
Exactly. But I'm not using that word. So, foods like that. And then, and then you do your Kundalini. So you can have less sleep, but the sleep that you have is really deep. And so you're sleeping, you're not kind of waking up and tossing and turning. And personally for me though, if I'm not doing enough, because I'm a very active person, just my nature is really high energy, so I have to do quite a lot of physical exercise to sleep really well.
Yes.
Because it's just how I am. And for others, everyone's different again too. I think some people might need, 8 hours. Some people can, be fine with 6 hours. I think, and again too, new mums, like, everyone's going through such a different, like breastfeeding mums. It's like, and then so after, you need the time where you can restore yourself. Otherwise, over time, it catches up with you over time.
Yeah.
My sister's a performing artist, like she's a violinist and has gigs late at night often. And earlier on in her life, she'd be, you know, so wired from her gigs that she wouldn't be sleeping. She'd be on Facebook, she'd be doing this, and then she'd be going to bed like around 3 or 4. And as a result, over years of doing that, she has health issues that she's now paying the price for, that she's trying to work on, of course. But she knows that it's because she didn't, you know, give herself the sleep. Yeah. I mean, we say even, I sometimes say, if your lifestyle enables it, it's really amazing to have even an 11-minute nap during the day for the nervous system to be
it's amazing. It's like a reset.
It's not just for, you know, it's called nana nap. It's not just for
I didn't know that.
Nana nap for grandparents sort of thing. It's for, you know, sometimes for women and men, you know, to have that 11-minute nap that can so recharge you.
Yeah. I see that with my dad. He's a really healthy person, but he's living quite a standard German life, if you like, you know, like, you know, not special food and all the rest of it. But you know, that nap was never negotiable. Negotiable, right?
Not negotiable.
Not negotiable. Yes. Not at all. And that's a good thing, I think, because you know, now he's in this. I think he might be already 70, and you know, and you would know. Again, that's one of those people that think, oh, you're almost my energy level, my age, you know, in that, because he has looked after himself. Done a lot of exercise and so on, but also that nana nap. Yeah, fantastic. Hey, we do have to wrap up in a moment, but I would love to ask you about sort of detox, because you mentioned that earlier to me when we spoke. You said you have also, so to me, raw food is like a gentle detox diet. Would you say? Well,
for some it might be really intense if they've been 100% cooked and who knows what they've been eating. But it's a way of rejuvenating the system whilst detoxing. And you know, bringing the body with that live food. If you want to feel more alive, you've got to put more live food into you. Why eat dead food if you don't want to feel dead, sort of thing. So it's kind of that philosophy. And I mean, detoxification is more important than nutrition in a way, because if we're not eliminating all the rubbish and toxins and chemicals and all the stuff that we accumulate, how can we absorb? So it's kind of just as important, and especially in this day and age when we're living in such a unnatural, toxic world, that it's everyone should be doing. Like I personally, on the equinoxes and winter solstice, do like a very kind of little mini 5-day juice cleanse, and have, you know, drink charcoal lemonade, go into the infrared saunas, do lots of grounding, like get outside, lots of sun, make it like a 5-day around that time when the planet's supporting you because of the equinoxes, because you know, the times they've got us like a portal, if you like, or the energy. So and then when people are wanting to have transformation, having enzymes, they're like spiritual catalysts for change. So
okay. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I've heard if you don't do your rituals or your intents on those particular pivotal points, it's a bit like you go to the bus stop but you miss the bus and you have to walk.
Yeah, it's like you get more credit for your work.
Yeah. Might as well.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
I want to finish with 3 questions. They're fairly simple questions, but quite insightful. What would you say is the one thing that gets you up every morning?
The one thing that gets me up in the morning, well, it would be my practice actually, because that's the first thing I do.
That makes you want to get up.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, it does. Right?
Okay. Yes, it does, because it takes me to such a deep place within myself. And just makes me feel, and I just, it's like a reconnecting to source. And then the day just unfolds, and you know, I can set my intentions that day. I connect. It's that connection. Yeah.
Connection with yourself and.
Well, self, as in capital S, self as in you know, God, whatever you want to call it, connecting to that universal energy.
Right.
And moving the body and breathing and feeling alive and just doing.
And what would you say are the 3 favorite things that you love to do at the moment?
3 favorite things I love to do. I love to share what I teach.
Yes,
I love
must be.
I love what I do. I love being with my son and just watching him evolve and hanging out with him. I love the beach. I love feeling alive.
Yeah, right.
Doing anything that helps me evolve.
Yeah.
That's what I'm into. Upgrading, evolving. That's what I love. It sounds good. I don't know if that sounds weird.
No, that's good. And you know, it's one of those things when you're actually aware that you're alive and that you are. It's quite a thrilling feeling.
But like a real conscious effort to constantly evolve, to upgrade, to be more and more in your own excellence.
Yeah.
Not perfect, because that's different to excellence.
And what is perfect? You know,
Exactly.
that might be a moving target.
Yeah. So that's
And last question: why do you think we exist?
To experience emotion, feelings. I think as humans, they say the angels don't feel, that they don't feel emotion, and I feel like as humans we have such an array of emotion, and obviously to learn. I think this is like a school, and that we're here to evolve and to learn lessons, of course, and that this is like a journey through evolution.
Yeah, it's a good one, hey?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It could go on and on and on, couldn't it?
Exactly.
It's like one of those.
Lifetime after lifetime.
No.
Yeah. But as you said, like, if you connect to souls, then it's a really enjoyable journey.
Yeah, well, you see it from a different, even the challenges, even though you can get caught up in the human emotional aspect of it, but then you can take altitude and think, okay, so what is this? This is obviously a reason to learn here, and does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, awesome. HarJiwan, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I know we only scratched the surface of what you do and what you teach. Obviously that's why you have a course, because there's so much more.
Yes.
I look forward to learn more about it, and it would be lovely to have you back at one stage to to dive a little bit deeper as well.
Love to.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.